Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for episode 100 of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe, and it's great to celebrate the 100th episode of Let's Talk Chelsea by reflecting on last night's brilliant win against Sevilla in the Champions League. What a wonderful performance to talk about more so in this episode. Going to be talking through some stats, Olivier Giroud, also the depth of this Chelsea squad. Also going to be looking at those recent links to David Alaba from Bayern Munich. How true are they? It seems quite conflicting, and finishing off with an interview from Hakim Ziyech to Matt Law in the Telegraph. Some interesting quotes, and I think it shows you the ambition of the player in Ziyech we have in relation to going for the Premier League title. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel. And also, before we get into today's news, just want to announce some Christmas related content I'm doing on the channel as we head up to Christmas Day in a couple weeks time. The 12 days of Chelsea on the channel, going to be doing lists, collabs, debates, all leading up to Christmas Eve on the 24th. So it's going to be the 13th to the 24th. A new video, 12 videos every day. Going to have some interesting collabs with fellow Chelsea creators on YouTube, some interviews as well, some lists, some ranking videos, all of that good stuff as we head up to Christmas. So I wanted to announce that in today's video. So make sure you're subscribed. Also make sure you have that notification bell turned on so you don't miss any of my uploads going up to Christmas. And that's in addition to all my rational perspectives, previews, other stuff I do usually. So it's just in addition. So 13th to the 24th, 12 days of Chelsea. So let's get into last night. That wonderful win, confirming not only qualification last week, but now confirming us as group winners emphatically in that 4-0 win. And just going through some of the stats last night. Firstly, the magnificence, the vavavoom of Olivier Giroud. What a wonderful performance from Giroud last night. Historic based on the amount of goals he scored last night. And just looking at his overall Chelsea career, Olivier Giroud has scored 28 goals in his 50 starts at Chelsea. Only Kerry Dixon, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Edouard Johnson have scored more since the 1980s. I think it just shows you the high level that Olivier Giroud has maintained in his Chelsea career. What an incredible signing he has been from Arsenal. What was it, back in January 2018? And I do wonder what Arsenal fans feel now about letting Giroud go to Chelsea, because to me, watching Giroud, he seems to be getting better with age. He seems to be growing in confidence, his finishing, sort of his belief in himself, the varied nature of his finishing. I mean, it was an all-round performance from Olivier Giroud last night. I mean, a lot of people, we look at Giroud as a physical, bulky sort of target man, which is what he excels at, right? But you look at all of his finishes, there's such a delicate nature to the way he finishes, the flicks and tricks, the technique he has. It's so elegant and precise. And I just think that header pretty much summed up the technique he has within his game, because that header, it's not a powered header, it's just a delicate little flick into the top corner. And it just shows you the experience of this player, the class of this player we have. And it was on show last night, 4 goals, a wonderful performance from Giroud. And then moving back into defence, which has been a big improvement for Lampard's team this season. And looking at Edouard Mendy, another clean sheet for Edouard Mendy. This stat here from Expected Chelsea, and looking at in relation to Petr Cech, who of course arrived from Rennes, the same club Mendy did this summer. Petr Cech's first 12 games for Chelsea after signing from Rennes, 9 clean sheets, 3 goals conceded. Edouard Mendy's first 12 games for Chelsea after signing from Rennes, 9 clean sheets, 3 goals conceded. History repeating itself. Wonderful to see, and it's a vindication of Petr Cech and Chelsea's business to sign Edouard Mendy. I mean, I don't think it'd be ridiculous to say that Mendy has been the most important signing so far for Chelsea, based on the magnificent improvement in that area for Chelsea. I mean, looking at it last night, depth FC, in terms of Chelsea and Frank Lampard sort of rotating that back four completely, looking at likes of Emerson coming back in, Rudiger, Christensen and Dave. I mean, we know what Dave can do, but in terms of Christensen and I think Emerson, who haven't played a lot this season, and you're sort of concerned about sort of trusting in them in big games, which was another big game last night for Chelsea in terms of the Champions League group, they performed brilliantly, and I think it shows you the trust and chemistry we have back there, the consistency now, the level of performance, fringe players performing well when they get the chance, and it shows you the strength and depth we have within this squad, which is wonderful to see. And I just want to give credit to Emerson and Christensen, because especially Christensen, because anyone who's watched this channel knows I'm not, I guess the biggest fan of Christensen. I do have doubts about him. I think he's got a lot of chances at Chelsea, and I don't think he'll be a main player at Chelsea. But I think when he got the chance last night after being out in the cold since the Southampton game, wasn't it, back in October, he really took his chance last night, didn't make any major errors, didn't have a lot to do, but I think that was down to his defending and the structure of that defence. Him and Rudiger worked really well, so it was great to see, and I'm sure we'll give both of them a lot of confidence as well. And I also think Mateo Kovacic getting back to his best form of last season. We've seen this now for a couple of games now. Sunday against Spurs, I thought he had a really good performance, and last night a bit more creatively, setting up the second goal for Olivier Giroud, which will do Kovacic the world of good as well. So it just shows you, as we're getting into this key period, a lot of players coming into their best form, which is good for Frank Lampard. And if we maintain that over the next few weeks going into key fixtures, it's going to put Chelsea in a great position. It really is. And that's just talking about the players last night. I'm not even mentioning the likes of Mason Mount, N'Golo Kante, Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, other players as well, Kurt Zuma, Reece James, Thiago Silva, Ben Chilwell, players who didn't feature last night heavily, but especially those who were completely rested, who'll be ready for the game against Leeds. Chelsea in a really exciting position. You want to sort of hold back sort of your feelings at the moment and sort of not go too overboard, as Frank Lampard continues to state, which is very true, because we still are very early on, especially in the Premier League season. But in terms of the consistency of performance and improvement we've seen over the recent months, it's really encouraging to see where Frank Lampard's team is going. And as well, I think in terms of the squad and the depth that Frank Lampard has to use in the coming weeks, we've got 8 games now between now and New Year's Day, and that's that Man City game, which I think is going to be a key game in the context of the Premier League title race. It's really about utilising his squad well, which Lampard has to do, and seeing all these players in form, I think is going to help him and give him a lot of headaches in terms of team selection, but I think that's a positive rather than a negative. Let's move on now to David Alaba. I spoke about him on Friday's episode of Let's Talk Chelsea when original links came out that apparently Chelsea would be in talks with Alaba's agent about a January move, potentially him leaving Bayern Munich. We've had conflicting reports this week about Alaba. So firstly, from Christian Falk, very much maintaining what we heard before. No sign of new talks between David Alaba and Bayern. Club already made an offer. He didn't decide, so no offer anymore. Alaba's agent is expecting to speak with Chelsea in January regarding a move and hoping to get a deal with them. Though Sky Germany claimed the opposite, that David Alaba has no plans to talk with Chelsea in January and the Blues have not registered an interest in signing him. I feel like with Alaba, I've heard this story before, a very similar story where originally you see links to Alaba to some English clubs, including Chelsea, maybe Man United as well, and they're very quickly shot down. And I do wonder, is there, no smoke without fire, in terms of Alaba and his links to Chelsea. I spoke on Friday about the need for a backup left back. I mean, Emerson performed competently last night, but there still is that concern in the long term about that backup for Ben Chilwell when Frank Lampard wants to rotate. I gave my sort of full opinions on the deal potentially for David Alaba, sort of the positives and negatives, the feeling that, is he just going to be a rotational player? Would a player of Alaba's class come to Chelsea and just be a rotational player? I think that's an intriguing point to make. In terms of January transfer rumours, we'll start to see the links crop up now as we get closer and closer to that window. I think a lot of Declan Rice talk will start happening again. I saw Matt Law talking about it in relation to Ben Chilwell. I think it will be the same with David Alaba if he is to make a move next month from Bayern Munich, not signing that new contract. And it'd be intriguing to see where he goes. And will Chelsea be in the conversation to sign Alaba, because there is this confidence at the moment with Chelsea that they believe they can sign anyone, and maybe Alaba could be the next shrewd signing, a bit like in the mould of Thiago Silva, a very experienced player to add that winning experience to that backline and improve its depth and strength even more going into the second half of the season. Let me know your opinions on these David Alaba links. Do you think they're true? Do you think they're false? Let me know in the comments below. And lastly, I want to talk about Hakim Ziyech. He gave an interview to Matt Law for The Telegraph, basically about how Chelsea have to believe we can win the Premier League title this season. A lot of players have been talking about this recently. We've been speaking about this on the channel about Chelsea's intention or realistic expectation to win the Premier League this season and be in the race for the title. This is what he had to say in terms of the Premier League title to Matt Law. Of course, you always have to believe in it. It starts from believing in it and then working every day harder, but you have to believe it is possible, and I think that is what we are doing. We believe it, and at the end of the season, we will see what we do. And then also talking about his start to the season at Chelsea, I'm happy, I feel good, I feel at home, and those things are the most important when you perform on the pitch. I always know what I'm capable of doing. I always trust in myself. I'm calm in my head, peaceful, ball, and all the other things will come by themselves. I think when you see Ziyech, not only off the pitch, but on the pitch and what he says in interviews, he comes across as a really confident figure. And I think you need to be with the style of player he is, with the flair he has on a football pitch, with what he can do, being an extroverted sort of attacking player. He seems to set really high standards of himself, not only of himself, but of his teammates as well. And I can just see him holding a Premier League title. I just think he's got that mentality right. And I feel every time I use the word mentality on this channel, I feel like it's a cliche, it's an overused term, but I think it is important with the nature of the team Frank Lampard is building and wanting to improve and wanting to have that winning mentality within his team. And I think that Ziyech is definitely offering that. I see Ziyech, not only in terms of being sort of a chief creator of this team on the pitch, creating chances at an incredible rate, but just in terms of the personality and the intensity of a player, I see a lot of Cesc Fabregas in Hakim Ziyech. When Fabregas arrived at Chelsea, you got a really serious player, a player that won a lot, that wanted to win even more and wanted to win every single game, that burning desire. I can't remember who said it, but in terms of looking at footballers and looking at the sort of the nature of characters within a squad, defenders are players that hate to lose, attackers are players that love to win, and Ziyech is a player that loves to win and wants to set high standards of himself and the team around him. And I just wonder, moving forward, Ziyech already impressing so much in this Chelsea side, offering a lot in terms of creatively, but I also think in terms of work rate, in terms of the style of football Chelsea can play, offering a new dynamic, and I think that's only going to grow and get better. And I can see Ziyech being one of our best players this season. In pre-season, I predicted him to be our top assister, and I think that's, he's right on course to do that this season for me, for Chelsea. Let me know your opinions on Ziyech, these quotes. Do you think we can win the Premier League title this season? Do you think Ziyech can be a main player in achieving that potentially this season? Let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this episode, the 100th episode of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I'll see you again